Lex Reads. So in today's video, we are doing episode 3 of Becoming a Black Book Collector. And in this episode, I really want to focus on Black classic literature. I actually got really inspired to do this after I went to Barnes & Noble, like always, and I went to the classics section and I went to see what they classify as classics. And of course, you already know they had Jane Austen, who else? Charles Dickinson. What's another person? Who wrote Great Gatsby? F. Scott Fitzgerald, all of them. And I was looking, I said, okay, let me see if they got some blacks. And they had, who did they have? Zora Neale Hurston, Their Eyes Are Watching God. They had Black Boy by Richard Wright. They had a little bit of James Baldwin. What's another one they had? And they did have Frederick Douglass, of course. They had Claude McKay, which was shocking. I think that's the only one that I can remember that they had. But, I looked at, so I was like, okay. You guys know I always talk about Henry Louis Gates Jr., how he is just an expert when it comes to Black literature. When he edits the Penguin Classic editions, he always has an intro, what is African American classics? And I wanted to read you this, just a portion of what he classifies as African American classics. There can be little doubt that narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, The Souls of Black Folks, and Their Eyes Are Watching God, those are considered like heavy classics. And also what I thought was interesting these are the most purchased books by African American people, which I thought was interesting because I'm like, but that does make sense. And then also too, he has a list of, some more classic literature. So first is Up From Slavery by Booker T. Washington. The autobiography of an Ex-Colored Man by James Weldon Johnson. I thought that was interesting because I don't think a lot of people just know about that book. It's really good, by the way. God's Trombones, which is also by James Weldon Johnson. Passing by Nella Larson. The Mile of Tradition by Charles W. Chestnut. The House Behind the Cellars, also by Charles W. Chestnut. The Bondage and My Freedom by Frederick Douglass. Quicksand by Nella Larson. It's Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl by Harriet Jacobs. So I'm like, okay, I have almost all those. I don't think I have The House Behind the Cellars by Charles W. Chestnut, but I do have a couple of his works. So I went through that list and I'm like, okay, I wrote that down in my binder, but it got me to thinking about books that are not well known. You guys know I like to classify them as unsung blacks. And I, was going through some of my books and just going through some lists that I have, created, and I want to share some with you. Yeah, okay. So what 2 books that I actually did focus on this time around was this. These are unsung, unheard narratives of African American slaves, abolitionists. And then I also, again, focused on this one, The Portable 19th Century African American Women Writers. Another thing I really kind of want to focus on in research is, you guys know books by, African Americans, especially like in 1800s, 1900s, a lot of times they're narratives, because they're narratives of their lives. They have been enslaved people. I wanted to see if I could find some books that are just novels. They may talk about, some slavery aspects, but it's fictional as opposed to nonfiction. Because, I think when people do, I'm generalizing, think about African American literature, especially like I said, 1800s, 1900s, they just think of like narratives, like slave narratives. And we actually have quite a few that are not just slave narratives. So yeah. The first one, you guys know, where I talked about it in my first episode, The Curse of Cass, or it's The Curse of Cass or Slave Bride. This is by Julia C. Collins. This is published in 1865. I know that book, it wasn't finished because she passed before it was finished, but you can get obviously a copy of that. Another one that I had never heard of was by Paula Hopkins. Now, I've heard of her, but I never read any of her works. And she, let's see, let me go to the section where she was. And this, guys, I would urge you guys to get this this edition. It's just amazing because it obviously has people that are unknown, but it has children's literature, it has essays, critical analysis, poetry, everything. She was a journalist, novelist, playwright. She went on to write her well-regarded novel of One Blood, or The Hidden Self. And then she also wrote this play. It's called Particular Sam. But one story that but one thing that I wanted to read by hers is, I think it's in this book. It's called Thelma Gordon, and it actually is a short story. But I think this one in particular, what got me about this one is it is considered the first African-American mystery short story, and it was published in 1900. It's a cute short story. Well, I shouldn't say cute, because it does make you think it's a mystery, and she really does keep you on your toes. So yeah, I want to check that out. Really, really good. Another person that I discovered is Amelia E. Johnson, and this is really interesting, you guys. Okay, so she's well known for 3 novels: Clarence and Karina, The Heasel Family, and What Is My Motive. But with her, it says she was the first African American and the first woman to publish Sunday school fiction from publishers. But it was something else that I thought was fascinating. Okay, wait, no, that's another person. That's another person. Okay, but this is fascinating too. But in this edition, it just had Clarence and Karina. That was published in 1890. Where religious talks about Black society. It's after the Civil War. So that sounds interesting. Okay, so she is one. This is the one that got me. Okay, Sarah Farrow. I think I'm saying that right. Farro. Is it Farrow? This story is called True Love. It was published in 1891. This one, it gets me because this actually is set in Victorian England, and also too, it's modeled after one of her favorite writers, which is Charles Dickens. But they said True Love was most likely neglected by scholars because it contains no Black characters and does not engage in race. So the fact that all her characters are white, and then it's not set in America, that made her stand out. That one was really interesting because I had never heard of that before. And I'm like, man, that was in 1891, and she was that bold to write a book that has no Black characters, doesn't talk about anything about race, and she's an African-American woman. But of course, like they said, it was neglected because no one wanted to read that, unfortunately. So yeah, I'm gonna have to read that because it does sound really good. And again, these are just excerpts of, you know, the book. So yeah, guys, these are the 4 books that I was able to find that are actual fiction books. They're not, you know, slave narratives or anything like that. And then also I wanted to tell you guys about, let's go back to the Unsung book. Like I stated before, this actually has children's literature that was published in like the 1800s, 1900s. And this one was so cute. So it actually was published in American Anti-Slavery Society in 1837. They are literally just like short stories, essays. They have some poetry. We don't know like the authors or whatever, but it was like in a collection in 1837 that is geared towards, you know, children. But this one was really cute. It's called The Affectionate Sister. There was once a little colored girl in Boston who often came into a house in Hancock Street to see if there was any food left. which she might carry home to her mother and brother. One day, when she was in the kitchen, the mistress of the house brought out a little piece of pudding and told her she had better eat it there. No, thank you, she said. I would much rather give my brother half of it and then eat it alone. Isn't that cute? So again, it's just like a little, paragraph. Um, this one was real deep. It's a mother's anguish, and it's talking about it's a mother and a son, and the son asks his mother, why did this woman kill her children? And the mother is telling him, well, she killed her children because they were slaves, and she killed her children because she was a slave, and she didn't want her children to be brought up as slaves. Yeah, it's real deep. And it literally it's like a page and a half, but it's so cute. But the fact that this was the literature that black little kids read, it warms my heart, because it's like I'm actually reading the literature that they read. It's just something about it. I just love it. So yeah, that's one reason why I really love this collection. But again, it's like, they have poetry, they have little short stories, some essays, things like that. Okay, so yeah, these are what I focused on this go around. And I actually wanted to go around and see if I have some classic black literature, which I know that I do, but I wanted to just see how much I have, and I'm going to do that right now. Okay, so it looks like I was able to find some of my classics. Okay, so let's go back to his list. He did mention Up From Slavery. Okay, so I do have that. This is actually by Dover Thrift Editions. These are really good editions because, first of all, a lot of times they will have the book, but they will have, like, in addition, maybe like some essays or another like short story. And then also too, these are very, very cheap. This was only $5. I have a newer one that I got. Oh, after I read Uncle Tom's Cabin, I wanted to get this Josiah Henson because it's based off of him. He actually is Uncle Tom. But yeah, this was $4. And then another one that I have, this was $4, I believe. African American Poetry. This is an anthology, and it's from 1773 to 1927. And this has everyone from Paul Laurence Dunbar. Let's see, who else is in here? And Spencer, Claude McKay, Paul Laurence Dunbar. Ooh, Paul Laurence Dunbar. I know I have something of his. This is poetry. Where's my Paul Laurence Dunbar? Girls, right there. Wait a minute. No, we gotta mention Paul Laurence Dunbar now. So yeah, these are really good additions to have, and like I said, they're really, really cheap. So yeah, okay. This is a perfect example. He didn't mention this one. He was a slave. He was inspiration for Uncle Tom's Cabin. This man was incredible. Incredible. He walked from Kentucky to Canada with his family on foot. He started the first manual labor school. So he wrote his narrative in 1849. Yeah. And this is obviously his life, because he was born in 1789. Okay. And then, of course, like I said, Booker T. Washington, Up From Slavery. I mean, we all know Booker T. Washington. We should know Booker T. Washington. And you know what? This actually, it reads like, the beginning part, it reads like a novel. This part he's talking about his mother. It says, she was simply a victim of the system of slavery. I cannot remember having slept in a bed until after our family was declared free by the Emancipation Proclamation. 3 children, John, my older brother, Amanda, my sister, and myself, had a pallet on the dirt floor, or to be more correct, we slept in and on a bundle of filthy rags laid upon the dirt floor. I did not know, he's talking about his father. Okay, of my father, I knew even less than of my mother. I do not even know his name. I had heard reports to the effect that he was a white man who lived on one of the nearby plantations. Whose ever he is, I never heard of his taking the at least interest in me or providing in any way for my rearing. I do not find especially fault with him. Simply another unfortunate victim of the institution. Yeah, it's deep. But again, it doesn't read like a nonfiction. So yeah. Okay. Arnig. I found this one. I read this, Fantastic by Harriet E. Wilson. It came back and published because of Henry Louis Gates. With this research, he was able to rediscover this again. So again, like I said, he is a goat. He knows. It doesn't read like a narrative. It reads like a fiction book. Of course, Narrative of a Life, Frederick Douglass. We know that. Ida B. Wells, The Light of Truth. And let's see. This was published in, let's see. I don't know a lot about Ida B. Wells. It's another one I'm gonna have to start looking up. Okay. When was this published though? Because she died in 1931. It looks like 1892. Of course, you already know Ida B. Wells is a journalist and all of this. It says what? 71 years before Rosa Parks was arrested for her courageous act of resistance, police dragged a young black journalist named Ida B. Wells off a train for refusing to give up her seat. This experience shaped Wells' career as a journalist and a civil rights activist. Okay. Did not know that. Okay. Frederick Douglass said, "Brave woman, you have done your people and mine a service which can neither be weighed nor measured." Okay. I did not know that. See, I need to learn more about Ida B. Wells. Let me put this right here. Okay, of course, he said Passing by Nella Larson. Yes. Okay, this one, Mary Prince, The History of Mary Prince. It was something about this one. Okay, this is published in 1831, was the first narrative of a black woman to be published in Britain. That's what it was. I have not read this. But yeah, I mean, it's a narrative, so you know it's going to be a lot. It says, "This is slavery. I tell it to let English people know the truth." Okay. So yeah, this is one that he did not mention. Elizabeth Kingston, Behind the Scenes. This is fantastic. Love this. This actually was published. When was this published? Because this caused a little scandal, girl. This is published in 1868. She was obviously a former slave. She also was a confidant and best friend of Mary Todd Lincoln. This was very controversial because she talks about the Lincolns. She talks about, especially Mary Todd Lincoln, she suffered with depression, and she'd probably be diagnosed as like bipolar. And they didn't like the fact that she was airing out, dirty laundry. She also talks about Lincoln, not in a like, vicious way, but people always say, "Oh, Lincoln, he, when it came to slavery, he ended slavery." Really? He wanted to preserve the Union. That's really why he ended slavery. It wasn't because he wanted slavery to be done. He wanted to preserve that Union. And, she kind of talks about that. So, yeah. And then she also, I found fascinating, she talked about the night that Lincoln was assassinated. The person that Mary Todd Lincoln called and wanted to be by her side was her. And she talks about also, too, how he had passed, like some of the guards, his bodyguards, they were engrossed in the in the play, and obviously John Wilkes Booth, killed them. But his bodyguards, they needed to be fired. His bodyguards were watching the play, so to speak, and then that's how John Wilkes Booth was able to, shoot him. But Mary Todd Lincoln was like, "No, y'all had this set up," and I think she was right. I think they did that. They knew what they was doing, because their explanation was, oh, we were watching the show. We did not know. First of all, y'all weren't supposed to be watching the show. Okay? Y'all weren't supposed to be watching the program. Y'all supposed to be watching over him and his wife. But yeah, she talks about that. Y'all, please read this because this was fascinating. But yeah, Elizabeth Kingsley, fantastic. Okay, narrative of Sojourner Truth. Haven't read this. Only thing I know about Sojourner Truth is Ain't I a Woman. This was published in 1884. Let's see, and yeah. Fun fact, Frederick Douglass actually wrote her eulogy at her funeral, so yeah. But again, I don't know a lot about Sojourner Truth. Like I said, I just know that. Ain't I a Woman, which needs change, but yeah. Okay. This is another one that people don't know about. Anna Julia Cooper. So she's known for this book, A Voice from the South, which is like a collection of essays. She's like basically like the first feminist, you would kind of say. And it was something else with her. Wasn't she like the fourth woman to have like a doctorate or something like that? Wait, I know. Okay, yeah, I am right. Okay. In 1925, Cooper became only the fourth Black woman in the United States to earn her PhD. So yes. And then she writes not only like, you know, nonfiction, she does essays, she does poetry, she has some plays. And this also is cool too because it's some letters that she wrote to W. Du Bois, like, you know, back and forth. So yeah. Of course, Miseducation of a Negro, Carter G. Woodson. We know Carter G. Woodson. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have Black History Month. And that was published in 1933. Yes. Okay. The Portable of Charles W. Chestnut. This is one of the books that he did mention. And this, it has some essays. It has a couple of short stories, and also has the book that he was talking about, The Mile of Tradition, that was published in 1901. And that actually is a novel. It's not a narrative. It's not a slave narrative. So yes. And Charles W. Chestnut, I'll pop up a picture. He does not look like a Black man. He looks like a white man, but he was Black. So yeah. Okay. Another person that he did not mention is, I have this Catherine Davis Tillman. I'll put up a picture because this was a library edition that I got from thriftbooks.com. And actually, I think they talk about her in, not this one, in this book. So, okay, let's just see what she's about. Okay, so Catherine Davis Chapman Tillman, that's her full name. Okay, so she, let's see. She's born in Illinois, okay. Poor family, did not attend school until the age of 12. Tillman was known as a literary prodigy. She published poems, short stories, and journals, and many of the Black publications of the time. She mainly wrote poetry. What is this? The works of her. Okay. So it looks like this is... Oh, this is how she looked. Oh, look. Oh, another Fort by Henry Louis Gates Jr. All right. This is just some poetry, okay, of hers. I'm gonna have to look at this and read some of her poems and see how I like them. Usually what I do is, when it comes to poetry, since I'm not a big poetry person, I will take, you know, the book and like go through some of the poems or whatever that I think is like interesting, meaning like the title. And if I like it, I will, you know, tab it or whatever, because yeah. Again, I'm not a really big poetry person. I really want to change that. Okay. All right, so yeah, that is Catherine Davis Chapman. I believe I have her name in here. Let's see. Yeah, okay, I already have her in there. All right, next is Crotel, or The President's Daughter by William Wells Brown. So he was it says the first novel published by an African American, and this was published in 1853. I know this is about, it's talking about Thomas Jefferson's daughter, I believe. Ooh, his real daughter's name was it Harriet? But a lot of people say that this actually, it's not, it's fiction. You know, he's like talking about her, but it's not. He didn't get all the facts, I guess. You know, right? And this is the daughter of Sally Hemings and Thomas Jefferson. So you know, a lot of people didn't want to, you know, talk about that. So yeah, just talking about a illegitimate daughter that Thomas Jefferson fathered. And I mean, it's really good. I liked it. And yeah, this is a good one. Not a lot of people talk about this book. And yeah, so next we have The Great Escapes, 4 Slave Narratives. This actually is a Barnes & Noble collection edition. Really love these editions. This has, like I said, 4 novels. Okay, so it has William Wells Brown. Oh, he wrote this. So the narrative of Williams W. Brown, A Fugitive Slave, that was published in 1848. We have Henry Box Brown, the narrative of Henry Box Brown, that was published in 1849. His story is really fascinating. He actually escaped from slavery. He was in a box and it literally like got to freedom. Just smart. Oh my goodness. And sorry. Okay. And then we have Williams Craft, Running 1,000 Miles for Freedom by 1860. See, this is why I need to be really looking and reading my books. So I actually was going to order William Craft's narrative because his life is fantastic. And what his wife did, let me just give y'all a backstory of what this man and his wife did. Fantastic. So his wife, she basically, she looked like she was white. She looked like she could pass, and you know, they were slaves. And they were like, you know what? We don't want to be slaves no more. We are going to try to escape, and we're going to escape before Christmas. So with him, sometimes, which is another fact I didn't know, with slavery, they would buy themselves out, which means they would go like into town and like work, and then they would come back and they could give, and they would give like some of their wages to their, you know, master. Some of them would take all of them, and if you had a master that was kind of lenient, they would, you know, maybe let them keep half of it. So again, him and his wife, they're plotting, you know, every move, every detail of how they can successfully escape. What they do is he saves his wages. He buys his wife some men's clothing. What she does is she says, I'm going to disguise myself as a man, because it wasn't proper, nor was it normal for a woman to go, you know, into town or to travel with a male slave. So she disguised herself as a male, a white male. They said she actually practiced for months the, you know, demeanors and mannerisms of a man. So she got that down pat. He was able to buy the clothing, you know, for her. And that's how they escaped. And they got there before Christmas time. Went to Canada, I believe, and talked about, like, you know, anti-slavery and things like that. And they got stopped a couple of times, but you had some people that were like, look, we're going to help you out a little bit. We're not going to say nothing. So they almost got caught, but they were determined to get their freedom. But the fact that they did that, to think about that, I'm like, oh, that's just brilliant. The fact that they just came up with that, and it had to be like detailed every step of the way. They could not have no mishaps. Otherwise, they would have been, girl, brutally beaten and probably killed. But the fact that they thought about that, you know, I'm a disguise as a man, and you gonna be my slave. And she cut her hair and she did everything. But I was surprised because I was gonna get that narrative, and actually I have it. So okay, I don't have to get that anymore. Also looks like Henry Box Brown, he has 2 narratives. Look, he said, I'm gonna tell all my story. So the first one was in 1849, and then the second was in 1859. So the first one is Narratives of Henry Box Brown. The second one is Narratives of the Life of Henry Box Brown. Okay, so yeah, this is a good one to have. Oh, I'm really excited about that William Craft. I'm gonna have to push this out. I'm gonna leave this out because I'm gonna get to that. Oh girl. Okay. Then next is Harriet Jacobs, Incidents of Life of a Slave Girl. He did mention this. Okay, and this was published when 1861. Yeah, I read this in college. This is my edition from college, Lord. Okay. Okay, and then next I have 12 Years a Slave. I have never read this, nor have I seen the movie, which is a shame. This is also a Barnes & Noble edition. And when was this written? I'm always so fascinated about the dates, guys, so I always mention it because I just like to know the dates. 1853. Okay, and it said it sold, 30,000 copies in 3 years. When did he pass? He passed in 1831. Same as death, the exact date, location, and cause unknown. Explanations for his death have ranged from kidnapping and murder to the effects of his years of enslavement and with smallpox. Okay. Yeah, again, like I said, I've never read this. I do need to read this, and I probably will see the movie. Next, what do we have? Paul Laurence Dunbar, of course, selected poems. We all know Paul Laurence Dunbar. We should know Paul Laurence Dunbar. My favorite poem by him is A Negro Love Song. What's another one that he is known for? Melindy Sings, I believe. You know what? Fun fact, I know about Melindy Sings from Holiday Heart. You guys watch that movie? It's really, really good. I used to come on BT all the time, but that's how I knew about When Melindy Sings. Yeah, that's how I knew about that. Let's see. That came out in 1903. Yeah, so these obviously has a lot of his poetry. I also know that he wrote some, he did write a novel, which I need to get and look it up a little bit more because, yeah. But yeah, you got to mention Paul Laurence Dunbar. We have James Weldon Johnson, God's trombone. So that is one thing that Henry Louis Gates did mention. But I wanted to mention his autobiography, which is fantastic. It's called Along This Way, and it's so good. James Weldon Johnson, he wrote Lift Up Your Voice and Sing. He co-wrote it with his brother. You guys know Black National Anthem. And also he wrote Autobiography of Ex-Colored Man, which was also in the list that Henry Louis Gates talked about. And that's really good. It's a fictional autobiography, basically. And it's really good. I don't want to give it away because, yeah, I can't explain it without giving it away, but it's really good. It's really short, and that was written, I think, anonymously, if I'm not mistaken. And then it got a resurgence because it was written like 1912, and then it got a resurgence during the Harlem Renaissance during that era, which is what 1920s, 1930s. Because it talks about race and passing and things like that, and that was a big subject. So yeah, but yeah, this fantastic, you guys should read. And then of course W. Du Bois, The Souls of Black Folks. You already know he mentioned that. I have never read this. It's a shame I have never read this. But yeah, only thing I know about him was it's horrible. Well, I know he's a sociologist, which, you know what I was thinking, I majored in sociology, and all those courses I took, they never talked about him. And he's a Black sociologist. They always talked about who? Karl Marx and what's another one? Not Thoreau or whatever. But I mean, they heavily talked about Karl Marx, like, girl. Yeah, which is, but I actually had a conversation with my sister because my sister also majored in, I think her degree, one of her degrees, Lord, she got so many. She did major in sociology, and she was like, you know what, you are right. I didn't talk about W. Du Bois, and he's a sociologist. That's what he's known for. But besides knowing he's a sociologist and knowing about this book, I do know, Lord, that he had a little affair with Jesse Fawcett, who wrote Plum Bun, you know, Harlem Renaissance. And girl, he was married. But yeah, they had a little thing going on. And too, they said he was very regimented. He like everything he had to eat at a certain time and everything like that. So I thought that was really interesting about him, which I'm like, he does look like a man that would be real structured and regimented. So yeah. Okay. Lastly, I want to highlight a woman that no one really talks about. Her name is Frances Ellen Wilkins Harper. Long name. She's known for poetry, and they say here that her writing is most noted for its passionate portrayal of love from within the institution of slavery. I know one poem that I really like of hers. The Slave Auction. It's real deep. Yeah, so far that was the one that I liked, and it was another one. If I remember what it is, I'll put it on the screen. I can't remember, but yeah. So yeah, that one, it's real, it's deep. So yeah, guys, check her out because again, not a lot of people know her. And you know what? I just thought about, I didn't mention one person, and it's like you gotta mention that person. And I don't have her first collection, but I just have this book, and it is Phyllis Wheatley. Okay, we got to mention Phyllis Wheatley. She was the first, African American to, publish poetry. And when did she publish that? Oh, 1773. So yeah, I got to mention that. And then also too, I have to write that down because I don't have her first collection, and I need that. So yeah, guys, that is it, and I'll be back with more Black books. Bye.